finish this some jorts. Let's get this. We good to go. Yeah. Put something on. It's too quiet.
Is debating change now. People ask me a lot, when is it going to happen? And I always say the same thing, when they feel the pain. If you want to get into Walmart or Target or CVS, it was hard. You needed tens of millions of dollars. And then to let people know, you needed tens of millions of dollars on television. So they had a moat. Now, one TikTok, can sell out an entire product, and it can be on your Amazon 3PL or on your Shopify. Nobody's safe. Technology doesn't give a shit about your feelings. To answer your question, when will it change? It only changes in pain. A lot of that is on the horizon because the advancements of technology, that's what it does.
Type shit.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicole Pearl, CMO at TV, and I'm with Gary Vaynerchuk, he's CEO of VaynerX, best-selling author. What other groups do you have? Multi-hyphenate? What are we adding these days?
We're good with that.
Really excited to have a discussion about something we're calling 3.0 and how we use social in the entertainment landscape to drive viewership and affinity. And I'm going to start with a personal story.
Let's get busy.
9 years ago, I worked for
Doing
Gary.
some oblique
Almost
stitching.
June.
Some letters on. Alright.
And the amazing thing about working for Gary is he was always pushing and trying and testing new things and always encouraging us to make ourselves uncomfortable and try new products, try new platforms. And I'll never forget the day that we got this Slack and he said, this is going to be the next business thing. Download this app, make some content, get your client on it. And I'm like, I see this app musically and I'm like, I don't know if JP Morgan Chase is gonna, what are they gonna do with this? I just got them to use Snap Lenses like last week. Like, I don't know what this listening platform is yet. But he was like, this is gonna be the biggest thing, and we've gotta be paying attention to this. And so that is just one of many stories with Gary and I've taken that throughout my whole career in CMO, is this man makes a lot of bets and has a vision for where things are going before they actually start to happen. And we are here to talk today about streaming and social and the convergence of those things. So Gary, not only are in the space, but also kind of in the entertainment space. Why don't you start with your thoughts and where we are?
So lovely to be with everybody. Hope everybody's having a good week. What Nicole's referencing, because I think this is probably not on the radar of most, but about 15 months ago, I announced a new company, not in the VaynerX world. It sits outside of it. It's called VaynerWatt. It's a TV and film production company with my partner Eric Wattenberg, and so we're really in it now. And it's been fun learning how the TV landscape, the movie landscape works, how it has its own variables. Similar to advertising, when I came into it, you have assumptions or things you may know, and then you get under the hood and you learn. And so it is fun for me to have kind of a foot in both worlds. Obviously, we're much further along in the advertising space. You know, I think when I think about it, I don't think anybody in this room is confused. The distribution of creative is changing. And this has always been the thing that I've been most fascinated by, which is, why do we hold on to yesterday in the face of today's truth? You know, how could you possibly not understand the relationship between social and streaming, it's pretty obvious. We literally have shows that have been created from a Twitter stream, from a Twitter, thread. We have unbelievable data that supports that when you market well in a social environment, it leads to tune in. And really for the business people in the room, it's very clear that the way we're going to advertise on streaming service looks a lot more like social than it looks like buying upfront, and so the biddable and things of that nature. And so, as I look around the room, especially what's enjoyable, there's so many young faces in here, and obviously some OGs as well, but for the young faces, they're not even gonna know a different world. And definitely, and I think for everyone that's in the room, no matter which, gen you're in, our behaviors of consumption have changed radically. And so I think about it a lot. And this week always reminds me of how much opportunity there is, because I do think that this festival is very, very, very good at yesterday. I think we are overly romantic about the things we give awards to this week. I don't think they're consumer centric. I think they're industry centric. And the reason I say yes to a talk like this is I think this is the conversation that we need to be having as an industry. Otherwise, there's a lot of wasted money and a lot of disruption in our paths if we don't.
Yeah, I mean, we know, we released a stream report this spring that said that 25% of millennials and Gen Z, they primarily want to watch on social.
This is to your point. This is why all these reports make me laugh.
It's gotta be the 10%.
45%. How else are they? What is Us Weekly telling them what to watch? It's fucking 2024. But nonetheless, but by the way, this is the other thing with generational things that make me laugh. I just did an interview and they're like, "What's an it was very nerdy, deep social." They're like, "What's the underrated platform?" Similar to I do have a good career of the Musical.lys and all this other stuff, but I actually think, ironically, the underrated platform currently is Facebook proper. I don't think people realize how much attention sits on classic Facebook and how many upper millennials, boomers for sure. But here's one that would blow people away. This is probably just to take a quick step back. The lack of practitionership in the industry is the opportunity. For me, what's been remarkable is between Wine Library and Wine Text, my family's wine retail business, between my Gary Vee brand, between all the other things I do, V-Friends and things of that nature, I have to stay being a practitioner. So I know, not by a report or by a boardroom meeting, I know that Facebook works. And I know that we're converting Facebook users that are 25 to 35 from Facebook. And I also know that had I not been a practitioner, I would never believe it. If there was somebody sitting right now and be like, "No way, there's nobody 25 to 35 on Facebook," I would understand that. I didn't realize that was happening either until we started running very heavily last year on seeing that underpriced arbitrage. So I think,
Organically, Facebook is one of our best platforms. Charlie knows that. He tries to
it's crazy.
What's interesting is, so not all of the content is original content. We have a lot of original content in our team. And I will tell you, the things that pop on social, RV with Robin Williams, how old is that one?
Yep.
Racks up millions and millions of views, and then all of a sudden, a title that had insignificant rises to the top. Title called Hazard, and Raffle, probably no one knows it. In the early 2000s, went straight to DVD, and we cut it, clipped it, Joseph Gordon, let it you films it's stacked. And we put it on TikTok, racked up views. People thought it was a new movie. I think that what we're finding a lot of success is not overly favoring the things that we make and putting a lot more things out there because our library is so huge. And it doesn't need to be new content to actually bring in viewership. It actually is new to a new audience or new to someone that hasn't seen it before.
And everybody in this room knows that. Meaning this, it's highly likely that a lot of people in this room know that Friends on Netflix hit an entire Gen Z generation. Even looking at the head nods, that's known. It's probably known by this audience that the viral Ocean Spray video on TikTok was playing Fleetwood Mac in the background, and then Fleetwood Mac's song went #1 on Spotify. #1. So to your point, if I'm a distributor and there's an opportunity to buy IP at a low cost that sits with early work from famous people, and then I can post-produce the creative and create reach, then this is probably a big point out, similar to what you're referring to, which happens on streaming in social as well. For the first time ever, the creative is the variable of the reach. That has always happened in Hollywood. A good movie created reach. A good show created reach. It was never real in advertising. In advertising, we made something and then we poured a ton of money to make people watch it in between what they wanted to watch. What social currently is doing is the creative is creating the reach, the TikTokification of all social. And that's a really important new twist on the last 15 years of social. And I think it plays to, when I turn on Tubi, like the algo, like, you know, people talk about AI all week, which has been very humorous, listening to the marketing industry talk about advanced technology. But what's really funny about it is while we're talking about AI, the most significant AIs in advertising sit currently in real life in streaming services of what they're putting in front of you, and clearly social is very advanced on what it's putting in front of you in the 40 pages.
Kind of skipping a topic, we are Painter is our agency, and we gave them a social listening project last year to kind of understand some of the trends that, some of the conversations that we're having. Taking that, we believe culture is very bottoms up, and if you're going to make cultural content, it's coming from something on the internet for sure. Very few cases like a salt burn or something can have a moment, and those are done in a very meticulous way to make sure they're built and custom for social. Gary's team came back with a great theme of a conversation that I think we all are really aware of in social, which is the generational divide in the workplace. And the conversations, and you know, you've got the Gen Z employee who like doesn't want to go to the office and is like smoking their vape. You've got the millennial one that's kind of like processing trauma from the Gen X boomer boss that doesn't want to like accept the Gen Zer. I think you guys all have seen countless content, and it I think honestly humanizes all the generations and gives us a little levity in our day. Gary's team said there's something here, and maybe it'd be interesting to see like something called the Z-Suite, where the younger people take over the executive roles and see how they fare in that job. And so we are doing our first project together, where it's a series that Tubi will be releasing. We have Morgan Graham casted to be the head of the agency that it's portraying, and we're really excited about this project. And I think also what we get to do is like kind of break the mold on how we're going to work on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, knowing there's a big mix of different individuals here, whether it is what obviously Nicole's talking about, I think this will make sense to people, especially people that are hardcore Reddit users here. Like, there's so much creativity on the internet that's just floating. There's so much creative talent in the world. I think one of the most challenging things for this industry right now is there's a lot of people that are here this week from the creative industry, but that's just because the serendipity of those humans deciding to go into this world. I think when you take a step back and look at creativity, it's being done at scale by all sorts of people that have nothing to do with our industry. That's just their life. And so I think our industries, both on the advertising side and on the original programming side, it seems insane to not take a cue from consumer truth. This is obviously an example of something that I know everybody here can snicker and smile about. There's a stunning, just to go a step deeper, what we basically pay attention to is actual emotion. Like politics, sports, you know, music, like these things are grounded in actual emotion. Like, I can promise you, I am not the best version of myself at a New York Jets game, right? Because the emotion of it changes my behavior. So what's so interesting right now, I think everybody knows here, a lot of people in this room, just this little room, have a lot of emotion on how they feel about how certain sectors work in today's world. That is good proxy, that is good fodder for something that could work, right? And so I think the same thing in advertising. For the advertising industry, it's crazy to be paying for the amount of monies and dollars we're putting into consumer insights that are just little focus groups, when in reality, social media has an incredible proxy to actual consumer truth. The single most interesting reason to do organic social media creative is to take advantage of the algorithms finding the audience and analyzing the qualitative data that can be used for advertising and it can be used for original programming.
I'm one of those CMOs that I fucking live in the comments. Like, I'm not that great as a practitioner myself, but I swear to God, everything we post, I will go deep. How did they think about this? What are they saying? And no sentiment tools are gonna read that. You know, cringe is good in some contexts, isn't bad in fucking others. Is that positive or negative? Like, you have to get in there and you have to see what you're putting out in the world, what other people are putting out in the world, and how are people feeling about it? Is it making them feel any which way? And then the debates are in the comments. And I think that's where I kind of anchor, if I'm not I'm not a subject matter expert, how I think things might land. And like when we are doing things, you know, sometimes half of what we do is not going to be loved by everybody, and that's okay. And
Well, it can't be.
It can't.
Right, I would actually argue that that's the thing everyone should most understand, which is if you're putting out creative, whether it's a show or advertising, I think what's really been to the detriment of our industry in the last 20 years is because we come from a television mindset and a brand positioning mindset, we make vanilla. Everything's vanilla. If you go look at the Fortune 500 tagline, Toyota's brand positioning is "Let's go places." That is built because places can be literal or right. Like you're literally creating. Every single brand creates vanilla, and so the point of where we're at now with distribution is relevance at scale. Relevance at scale. I mean, I just look at the faces in this room. If I wanted to sell this glass of water, it's inconceivable that I have one pitch to maximize my conversion. I'm gonna need different rationales. And so gender, race, income level, interests. And so I think what you're seeing in your environment, you know, many of us that are like, there's people in this room that grew up where there was 13 channels, pre-cable, 13. I'm looking around, I don't think anyone was in the 4-channel range, but like, you know, 13 in America as recent as like 1980, right? And so then cable came, and for the youngsters in here, original cable got you to somewhere about 36, right? And then we got into satellite television, and then the internet came, and it was so the fragmentation of attention now is at scale. Trying to force vanilla down this fragmentation is the great waste of money, both in original programming and in marketing. And so this whole world of entertainment and advertising needs to understand that the days of one vanilla boulder being forced down everyone's throat is a high risk, high reward game. In entertainment, it works once in a while when you spend $100 million making something. In advertising, it has no precedent the last 5 years of working when you spend millions of dollars. Meanwhile, many pebbles of different flavors building up create the boulder that brands and entertainment entities are looking to create. And so, I mean, either people live in the world we're now living in, or they hold yesterday on a pedestal. And I think that's how you will see the separation of who wins and loses. I'll give you some flowers. I think people know this. I don't know how many people here are internal Tubi or have been watching from far, but this streaming war thing is hard. I don't know if you're paying attention. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be plenty of consolidation. And when I think about where Tubi, and like Tubi can only even be at this event with really strong execution over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years because it's competing with so many other things. There's a lot of mid-tier streaming companies that have completely disappeared off the face of the earth. And so I think it requires marketing that gets tuned in. I think it requires a smart strategy of original but buying other content. And I think they're very simpatico of how to do original programming and how to do marketing. And I think most people are struggling with it because it's been a hard left turn. It's a really hard left turn.
I mean, we punch way above our weight.
Way.
We are tied with Disney in terms of total streaming minutes.
insane.
this month, 1.8. We're tied with Disney.
I have a funny feeling they spent more money trying to make that happen.
I got a team of 30 people and I do not have budgets like that. So it just shows like, how scarcity can really punch above your weight.
I apologize though, I want to jump in. I want everyone to hear this because it's gonna, I have no clue what everyone does and what they're trying to achieve, but there is a major story in this. Budget has no proxy of success. This is like really important, right? I don't understand how people don't understand. The more budget most companies have, the more likely it is they're gonna waste it. It's like rich kid shit, right? Like I don't. And then the other thing is this industry also measures incorrectly. The corporate America runs on reports and bullshit awards. And that is the punchline of opportunity. If you actually know what you're doing, you can make $1 go very far, and if you don't know what you're doing, you can burn $100 bill in a second.
Okay.
And that is a big deal. And I think that's the story of this. And by the way, forget about all the marketing dollars that Disney's deploying. Let's be with all due respect to how smart Tubi has been doing their content, what about the content Disney has? Right? Even if they didn't spend $1, they should be so far ahead because of the historic content. The IP is absurd. You've got literally Marvel, Lucas, and Disney itself.
Yeah,
so I just think there's a real lesson in it. And I do think we're in a really inflection point where people can feel it. They just don't know exactly what to do with it. And I think that's going to be the fun to see who figures it out in the next 5 years and who doesn't.
So a little pivot, because we were talking about what TV used to be like in the 1980s. It was a very advertising-friendly environment, and advertisers and television companies, they co-produced things. They did things together. And then probably around the Netflix era, we decided advertising was bad, and then certain entertainment spaces didn't want to allow advertising in. 3 years ago now, we're advertising friendly again. Or some spaces are. We've always been asked for it. What do you think the role that, brands are spending millions of dollars on a 30-second ad. They could spend less than that on a fully produced movie or a longer piece of content. I don't want to call it content, but storytelling. Do you think there's an opportunity for brands to play a role there? How do you see it evolving? And with branded content's kind of in a weird place because a lot of the publishers that were doing it, the digital publishers, are kind of no longer. Right?
I think this is going to make sense to everybody. There's enough faces in this room sitting in different sectors that I recognize, so I think this is going to really land. This is the same way I think about long and short form content. It's the same way I'm thinking about what you're saying. Whether you're doing an ad in social or you're making a movie, let's just use the two extremes and everything in between. Branded content, TV shows, commercials, banner ads, just the whole.
I'm gonna make all the edges look like this when I'm done. I got another pair I'm about to stitch.
Everybody the last 5 years like, Gary, it all has to be short form video, right? Like we don't have good attention spans anymore. Like that's not true. Like you look at social media ads, the amount you can make a shitty 6-second video that people leave after 1 second. And I don't know about y'all, but what streaming reminded everyone is people will binge watch a show. If you get hooked on a rainy Saturday, you're watching 9 straight hours of content. This was always my argument that movies could be much longer. I always believed years ago that movies could be like 5 hours. I just did. I would always be mad when I think this is gonna land also. When you watch a movie like fuck, you could feel that they cut it short because they wanted to fit in time, and if they just gave it 30 more minutes, but they didn't want to go over 3 hours because that was the rule. That's how I think about 30-second spots. So the answer to the question is, do I think that companies should do original shows? Of course I do. Do I also know that 99% of them will fail? I do. So that's why people are scared. It's like a Super Bowl spot, right? Super Bowl, just for all the advertisers here, is the best ad buy. It is impossible if you are perfect at day trading attention, pun intended. If you are perfect at buying media in today's media landscape, you cannot get 110 million people to watch a 30-second video for $8 million. You can't get it done. Promise. The report can tell you did, but that's potential reach, not actualized. Super Bowl does that for you. The problem is, If the Super Bowl ad itself is bad, you just wasted $30 million. Right? So the creative is the variable. So Carla's here, and I love her so much. Do I think that Chase should contemplate doing an original show that is basically like The Office or like Wahlburgers about Chase? Yes, I do. I think if they did a show that's based on a bank and bank tellers that we all thought were funny, and it was Chase, not a made-up name, and we all thought it was awesome, and it was Seinfeld or fucking, How I Met Your Mother or whatever it is, like The Office, would that be good for Chase? It would be remarkable for Chase. Okay, there you go, Carla. Now go make a hit show. Like, that's hard. That's hard. And so, is that in the best interest of Chase to take a $20, $15, $30 million swing? Shit, that's hard. On the flip side, do Fortune 50 and 100, Fortune 500 companies waste $20 million on media or creative a year? All day long. All day long. And so, whether it is as extreme as a show like that or what I think is going to happen, I think TV streaming, what we now call TV 3.0, this is one of the main reasons I started a TV production company. Now, I believe that what TV really was in the 50s and 60s, and even into the 70s. I mean, in the 1970s, if you watch the Today Show, Alpo, dog food, which was the leader at the time, their commercial was a dog coming on set in the middle of the show, eating the dog food. It was fully integrated. I don't have to tell anybody here, if you're in the store and marketing, Procter & Gamble creating the soap opera, and just like full integration. I think product integration. Back to a less risky move for Chase, if I'm just using Carla, like going and looking at the slate, the upfronts, instead of looking at the upfronts of what to buy commercials on, if they could get a year ahead of that and get into the slate of what's been bought and is going to be made, and then she and her team could say, you know what, I think this show, this Growing Pains or Wonder Years or whatever, I think this show is going to do well, and can we talk to the production company and the distributor and write in the main cast going to a Chase bank multiple times over a season? And that's a hard one as a bank. Obviously, product is soda and wine and sneakers, and I think you're going to see a substantial integration of brands back into content, and we've all seen versions of it, but I think we're going to be forced into it because this has always been my thing that has always made me laughable. People are like, Gary, you hate TV commercials. People watch TV. I'm like, no shit. People watch TV. That's not a TV commercial. People watch TV. And people are like, Gary, live sports still works. I'm like, I know. I'm one of the people that consumes it. I go, you have a problem though. The number one spike in Twitter activity consistently in the world is during commercial breaks of sports. You watch it, and then you go to your Twitter when the commercials are on, and you don't pay attention to the commercial, and you're tweeting, fucking Aaron Rodgers, why'd you throw that interception? I'm not watching the commercial, I'm in there. And so attention, actual attention, this goes back to the creator economy, why that's where the attention is. And so these creators are not only going to be creating content, but look at King Badge. Like, he won on Vine, he's a meaningful TV star now. Like, this is all happening, and it's happening in front of our eyes. And the question becomes to everyone, this is ultimately the funniest thing here. This whole week, everyone's talking about creativity. This is one big corporate animal. Our industry is corporate. The creative industry that I am in is all owned by banks. It's all owned by companies. This is P&L life. This is a creative life, and that's the opportunity.
Awesome. I think we can take a question. Also, I ran 18-minute pre-roll under your watch.
Yeah.
And we got, I think it was for AT&T
Yeah.
on Father's Day.
Yeah.
We didn't make a commercial, we made something amazing that people watched through. And I remember being like, we're really going to run an 18-minute pre-roll. Let's go. Let's do that.
It's because people will watch it if it's good, but you can't make a video that looks anything like a commercial. Nothing like a commercial. Nobody wants a commercial. Not one human being wants a fucking commercial. But people will consume a video that they want, and if you're clever and get your message across with that, you will win. And that is going to be the future of, it has to be. The data's too clear.
So thanks so much for the insight, ministry. And I don't want to say because I feel that I've done that most time in creativity, and I always say that sometimes we you breathe creativity from the black.
100%.
And this is why I've done it now. I'm in the process of creating my first global social media platform, literally bringing the entire black ecosystem together. So I'm so excited about it. Yeah. So the question what you're saying, and I feel like we are in this constant circle, right? We don't know what we should do, but we're not doing it. And again, I putting the community at the center point, innovation, life supplies is the key for success. At the same time, I just need to play it safe. And I feel that it's not so much a question of a statement, and I don't know how you feel about it. It's more of a, is a problem is a company creativity culture that is too, as I say, ingrained to change. Now we can only visual that the dinosaurs going to die and let the new brands take over. Because at some point, you've been saying that for so long. You stay here frustrated, doing the same thing about the same giant doing the same things.
I think it's right. And honestly, you know, internally at Vayner, and you've probably heard this, Charlie, maybe you've heard this, like, people ask me a lot, like, when are they going to change? When is it going to happen? And I always say the same thing, when they feel the pain. Like, I promise you, Coca-Cola is debating change now because Prime Energy drink and Poppy are a problem. Right? Like, you know, so the Yellow Pages, they decided to change once Yahoo and Google started killing them, but then it was too late. And people, listen, communication and marketing is just one part of the equation. So, you know, I actually would argue that Apple is not very good at marketing from one man's subjective point of view of what I look for, but their product is so advanced that nobody gives a crap. So I think, you know, there's a lot of businesses that can do everything wrong from what we may care about as marketers, and it's not going to matter. Their product is superior. However, what is clearly happening right now is the pain is starting to accelerate because distribution has changed. Right? TV has changed, right? And shopping has changed. Literally 15 years ago, if you sold let's use deodorant. To get into I'll use the US, but Tesco, Sainsbury's, if you want to go UK, all over the world. If you want to get into Walmart or Target, or CVS, it was hard. You needed tens of millions of dollars. And then to let people know, you needed tens of millions of dollars on television. So they had a moat. Now, one TikTok, one, can sell out an entire product, and it can be on your Amazon 3PL or on your Shopify. Both of the moats that Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola had have gone away.
Yeah, I don't understand what he's talking about.
The first
It's
area
basically the
in our
fall of
faces in this
capitalism.
town really disrupted is CPG.
Shit is over with for corporations.
That's different for banking, but they have different
We
things.
know too much
Crypto
now.
and blockchain and all that, and that's different for airlines. Like, that's hard, right? It's not like if all the airlines do bad advertising, we don't have another option, right? It's not like, you know, so where I think people, you know, what will happen is industries that can be disrupted will. Think about bookstores. It's 1991, you have 30 bookstores and you're loving life. You're a mogul. And then, unfortunately, Jeff Bezos chose you first, right? And the bookstores got disrupted first, right? I remember when Uber came out. Anybody who owned medallions, if you were a guy or a gal or a family that owned 30 medallions because your grandpa bought it in 1940, you were a trust fund baby in 1995 chilling. It's free money. But unfortunately, Travis and Garrett decided to make Uber, and it was your turn. What people don't understand is it's eventually going to be all of your turns. VaynerMedia, we've come and disrupted the industry heavily. Well, guess what? Because we make more quality creative at scale for social. I don't know if you heard, but AI creative is a problem for me. Like, nobody's safe. Technology doesn't give a shit about your feelings. And so I think to answer your question, when will it change? It only changes in pain. It only changes in pain. And I think a lot of that is on the horizon because the advancement of technology, that's what it does. So I think for all of you, especially for your own career, you need to think about what's the commoditization of you. For example, AI. AI will create many more jobs than it will kill. However, if you're a designer and that's all you do, and you just live in Adobe and you make some shit, and you don't even think, someone just tells you what to make, bad news. You're deep shit.
Oh, God.
And so that's what we have to account for. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great week.
starting at just $5 a month and claims handled as fast as that. Sign up for insurance you'll love at lemonade.com/fractures.
Every single trend shows that Gen Z and younger kids are moving away from alcohol at very significant levels.
I think the world speaks in absolutes. Do I think no one's going to drink alcohol? No, I do not. Do I also know that even a 5 or 10 macro percent swing down is tough on businesses? Yes, I do. Do I also know that 10% less alcohol consumed in the world? You know, somebody can start a brand new mezcal or beer or wine. There's a lot of alcohol being consumed. So I'm not crying for everyone in alcohol. I don't think my dad's liquor store is going out of business. I don't think winetext.com is going to stop doing well. But in the macro, yeah, there's less opportunity, but the best players are going to get more. Attention is the number one asset.
Gary, thanks for jumping on the show today.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me.
So, first question. You work in the industry. Attention is currency, but who out there or what out there has your attention right now?
That's a good question. You know, I go very broad. What I mean by that is, what has my attention? Like I'll show you something. Let's do show and tell. There's an app on my phone. I'm not involved in it. It's called Break the Web. It's early. I'm not even sure it's going to crush the way I think it might. But look what it does. It does trending topics for the whole web, AI-wise. So what Twitter does, but no, for the whole web, right? So like, what has my attention? Everything that's on here. Like, it's runaway horses. There's some runaway horses in the British art, right? Like, I want to know, much like what you guys are doing here, what's going on every day. And then sometimes people pick up real momentum, right? So it'll go from like a year ago, like, or 2 years ago, like, who's this sexy red person, to like, wait a minute, I think she might pop, right? Or it might be like, oh, this kid ain't in loss, right? Or like, oh, this, you know, this funny comedian, King Batch, 100 years ago, like, so that will happen with people, and it'll happen with trends, and like, why are we going to like super baggy 90s pants again? Like, you know, 7 years ago, like, or 5 years ago, like, are dudes gonna wear nail polish? Like, is that cool now? Like, so I stay crazy, macro curious. I don't go deep except for things I love, like the Knicks and the Jets and like wine. I don't go deep on a lot, and I go very wide, like every moment of the moment, what's happening, and then if something feels like if I see this, you know, like if it gains moment, then I'll go a little deeper. So everything out of 1, then some things earn a 2. Then some things are like, oh, this is a 3, which would, in that state, would be like, oh, this Charlie D'Amelio girl is about to be like a person on this TikTok thing. Like, that's how my brain works.
Do you have anyone who's a 1 or 2 right now that you think is about to win this game? I want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'll give you one who's further along than a 1 or 2, or 3. But Chapa.
You know Chava? Toby?
Clearly Gary does. Right?
Yeah, like I don't know if you guys have music rights here right now, but you know, like to me, I'm very NLE Choppa, right? Like, I think he's dangerously close to becoming like enormous. He's also humongous. Like, I'm just looking for context. He's got 19.7 monthly, but the kids know NLE Choppa, right? But like, there's like the average 25-year-old that thinks they know like hip hop. They may know like, you know, like. But are they listening to like Slut Me Out? I don't know. Even though it has 328 million listens,
I think he pronounced it.
under 25, right? And so to me, this is like an interesting one. That's why I'm bringing it up. This guy could be like one of the 5 big feet, the little baby. But like, do I think more people know Lil Baby than Choppa? Yes, I do. And do I think he has the capacity to be as big, if not bigger? Yes, I do. And so I think about that. And then there's a kid who has like 20,000. You know, like when I DM'd Gunna, he had 8,000 followers. Obviously, it was 10 years ago, but like, so like.
I'm buying drops. Let's talk about this new book you have dropping, though. Day Trading Attention, how to actually build brand sales in the new social media world. It's actually an update to a book you wrote 10 years ago on similar topics. What has changed over the time between those 2 books that are coming out? And I guess follow up, what has stayed the same?
Great question. So yeah, the new book coming out, Day Trading Attention. it's the follow-up to Jab, 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 Right Hook. This book's title originally was Jab, 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 Left Hook. And then when I was writing it, I'm like, wait a minute, this is my thesis. And I've come to realize my thesis is day trading attention. Like, you know, when I launched my dad's liquor store's website in 1997, how old were you guys in 97?
0.
I was 6.
Yeah, so, you know, like, think about that. Like, it was a long time ago, and I knew the internet was gonna happen, and then email marketing, and then
Nice.
Google, and then I started a YouTube show like this in 2006, right? Like, I always pay attention to where the attention is. So what's stayed the same since Jab, 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 Right Hook? Meta still a monster, so Facebook and Instagram still really matter, right? And Twitter and X still matter. YouTube. Obviously, the TikTokification of social media has changed everything. Let me go into that because that's going to be valuable to everybody. The social media I grew up with, and the one that you guys grew up with, was about email marketing. Get as many followers as possible, and when you post, a percentage of them will see it, right? Same like email marketing. Build a 1 million person mailing list, email out, morning brew. Get as many people as you can, and 30, 40, 50, depending on 15, depending on how big your email is, will open it, and some will act on it. Same with social. I amassed a couple million followers on Twitter, and a certain percentage would see it, and some of them would act on it. Now we live in a world where it's not about building the following, it's the individual pieces of creative being good and finding the audience. That is profound. Massive change, and should give everyone who's listening a lot of excitement, because it's a level of meritocracy, a start over. Everyone who's missed it hasn't missed shit. They literally can go make a poker video right now for 49 seconds, and they're a year away from making a lot of money being a poker influencer. That's insane.
Do you think there will be social media companies that pop up that fill the gap that are AI generated, you know, AI recommended content? It'll just be your friends, like Facebook and Twitter and all these other social media companies used to be?
Do I think that because we'll go through an era of this, that the pendulum will swing?
Yeah.
Of course I do. Now, I think that's being serviced right now by text message groups and WhatsApp.
Please go down the group chats. Absolutely.
Yeah, group chat is that. Like, what is, like, by the way, that's why Snapchat crushes. Like, for the youth, it's Snap, and then people go to iMessage or WhatsApp, depending if they're international, or Telegram, or right? Like, that's the game. Like, what the small social network is called your 7-person Sixers group chat that all you are going to be talking about tonight, frustrated because you're down 3-0 after the game's over.
We'll see about that when this comes out. I'm sure the Sixers will be cruising to the finals. While we're on the topic of TikTokification, Biden just signed a bill banning or requiring ByteDance to divest from TikTok. Let's just say in the hypothetical scenario, TikTok does go away within the next 12 months. Who are going to be the winners and losers in this new paradigm?
I'm not sure, but here's my hot takes. I don't love to predict, which is why there's not a lot of horrible receipts for me out there. Like, I try to wait for things to happen, but here's my feeling. One, I think that's going to happen, which is wild. So that's an enormous, it's one of the biggest resets of attention we've ever had. Usually it's gradual. When we went from the radio to television, it was gradual. When we went from the television to the cell phone, it was gradual. This is going to be a shock of an ungodly amount of hours of attention having to find new audience. Here are the winners. Meta for sure. Instagram's gonna get a ton. Because a lot of people people are insecure. They don't want to start building again. So they'll go to the place where they have. So I think Instagram will be a big winner. I think a dark horse winner is X. Because I think they're gonna reboot Vine. I don't know that to be true. I don't know anything, but I think it makes a lot of sense. I've been thinking it for a couple months. Then I did see a tweet from Elon, like Vine, question mark, I don't remember how he did it, but like, it would make, I mean, Vine was the one that started this short form movement. I think YouTube Shorts has a chance. And then I think the dark horse, and the one that excites me the most, is the unknown entrepreneur. You've got to imagine that there's an ungodly amount of fucking kids right now who are working on their TikTok clone to try to capture that. I mean, if I was 19 at Stanford or, you know, or at home in a community college, I don't know, if I was capable, I would be building with the hope, because it's this, by the way, this already happened. It's called India. India banned TikTok. TikTok is not in India. And India had a bunch of clones pop up. Now, India is unique because there's a lot of language dialects, so you need it. But in the US, I think there'll be 5 to 10 brand new startups that are going to try to claim it. I think Instagram's gonna come through huge. I think Snapchat, if they got their act together a little bit and got more serious about Spotlight and like really like made that a bigger part of it, could also pick up a lot. So I think Snap, depending if they do some tweaks, Instagram's definitely gonna get some. YouTube Shorts is definitely gonna get some. And then I think Vine's the other big dark horse.
I do want to talk about another shock to the system as you described it, and that's AI. One of the talks you recently said that what social media influencers have done to traditional celebrities, you think AI influencers are about to do to traditional social media influencers
Over the next 5 to 10 years.
Why are you so bullish on this new class of influencers, these AI?
Because it's already happened. There's a lot of attractive girls on Instagram that aren't real people that are getting brand deals and selling only down accounts.
So, do you think that has a net positive effect on social media? Like, is it going to be better? I mean, the big thing that you preach is authenticity, connecting truly with people. What's it going to be like in 5 years when the people you're authentically connecting with aren't real people at all?
Do you think Santa Claus is good?
I thought you were going to say, is he real? I'm just going to say, like, yes, I
Santa Claus has never given me anything, so I don't think he's good.
Okay. Do you think Spider-Man is bad?
I think he's great. He's good.
Do you think Rocky Balboa is good or bad?
So you're saying
Sean Rocky.
So I think you're following where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's gonna be. Meaning, like, if we dug up our great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents right now and be like, here it is, they'd be like, this is fucking awful. Like, it is. It's going to happen, and we're going to evolve. Many people thought the television. Let me go even further back. Do you know that when electricity was invented, 80% of the people didn't want it in their house because it had demons in it? Demons. Like, we can't leave the candles. The candles are right. This is bad. When MySpace came out, they're like, this is gonna, like, your kids are gonna get kidnapped at the mall if they go on MySpace. Like, we demonize new technologies. What do I think? I think it's evolution. I think it's just part of the game.
Speaking of influencers, recently the YouTuber Marcus Brownlee reviewed the Humane AI pin and he called it the single worst product he's ever reviewed. That sparked a debate about the responsibility of reviewers and the power of individuals to tank a company. What was your takeaway from that whole saga?
Listen, first of all, he's one of my favorite people to watch over the last 20 years. I've watched that kid authentically work. You know, he's got an opinion. Like, I grew up in the wine business. Robert Parker, a lawyer in Maryland, started writing a newsletter in 1982, 84, and literally, when I entered the game in the mid-90s, and then through my entire 20-year career in the wine business, he single-handedly, through his subjective opinion, made or broke tons of wines. So, I don't know, like, as long as Brownlee is, like, actually giving his honest opinion, and there isn't some back-end deal because he's trying to tank it for something. As long as he's honestly saying, like, this is what I believe, well, he's earned a lot of respect and trust with his audience. I think it's wonderful if it's well intended.
Yeah.
Like, when I did Wine Library TV, I did 1,000 episodes, and I also, at one point, had a lot of power, and I didn't love it, to be frank. When I would sit there, about 3 years in, like, if I reviewed a wine on Wine Library TV well, it mattered. And if I reviewed it poorly, it wasn't like I could tank a wine, but it wasn't good. And I just remember like sitting just like this is literally how it used to be. I just remember like 1 second before I would be like, hello everybody, welcome to Wine Library TV. I would be like, okay, just like review it. And what I meant to me was like, speak your honest truth. Do you like this wine? Don't you like this wine? Don't think about anything else. Take out all the noise. And that's why it worked for me. Because when later I would go to parties and people were like, how do you like this wine?
Bro, I had anxiety about a wine review.
You like this on the show? Or people would come, like, people would try to get me a lot. They're like, what do you think about this one? I'm like, I'm not a fan. They're like, oh man, you said this was that, you know, and so I think if he really believes it, and I think anybody reviewing makeup or people reviewing Airbnb houses or craft beer, if they really believe it. Now, what I see a lot from influencers, especially in the beauty space, they get a little bit going and then they get high in their own supply and they feel their power a little bit and they actually deviate from their actual feelings and are playing a little bit more of a ego game. That's dangerous.
It's so funny to me because when I inevitably text all my friends, hey, I'm interviewing Gary Vee this week, what do you want me to ask him? A lot of them did go to wine, like, hey, give me a $20 bottle of wine. So it's amazing.
I love it.
To this day, like, that's still, I yeah, you built up this huge.
It's also cool, like when I was coming up, when I was your friend's age, like wine wasn't cool like that. And even though wine has declined, and alcohol's even declining with kids, and like it is definitely way cooler than when I was doing it. For you know, it makes me feel good. It's real. Wine's really cool because it's a farming product. Like unlike a Hershey's bar or poppy bourbon or a craft beer or like toothpaste or a deodorant, you may love a wine this year. So you may love the 2021 version, and then the next year you might not like it as much, and that makes it fun.
Do you think there is an existential crisis for the alcohol industry more broadly now? I mean,
Yeah.
every single trend shows that Gen Z and younger kids are moving away from alcohol at very significant levels.
Not only that, you have cannabis and like yeah. Now, I think the world speaks in absolutes. Do I think no one's going to drink alcohol? No, I do not. Do I also know that even a 5 or 10 macro percent swing down is tough on businesses? Yes, I do. Do I also know that even with let's just make pretend, in 10 years, 10% less alcohol consumed in the world overall. Big number if that was to happen. Still, somebody can start a brand new mezcal or beer or wine and fucking crush. Like it's a big ass number. There's a lot of alcohol being consumed. So I'm not crying for everyone in alcohol. I don't think my dad's liquor store is going out of business. I don't think winetext.com is going to stop doing well. But in the macro, yeah, there's less opportunity, but the best players are going to get more.
I want to shift gears.
By the way, real quick, before you shift gears, I just didn't want to lose this thought. You know where I think we've really lost our way with our actual opinions?
Yeah.
Sports. Back to because we've been yapping about sports. I think the guys and gals on ESPN, on Barstool, on all the, I think they say things they don't fully believe. I think too many sports because they're just looking for another headline. When they're like LeBron stinks, I don't know if I don't think they believe it.
They found that that's what drives engagement and viewership is having a hot take, and it doesn't matter whether you're right or not. You just have to have a strong opinion. That is what
I'm fine with. I have fucking strong opinions. I just think when I watch it, I'm like, I don't think he actually believes that. Like, I don't think he believes that Jason Tatum's a dog.
Iguodala is going to take the final 3.
You know,
the world on the line.
You know what I mean? That's a place where they've really lost their way. I think we, the audience, can kind of feel like 2 weeks ago you said Embiid was the greatest. Now you're saying it's like it just. I think they're running out of shit to say. I don't think it's cool to stick on this. Like one of the things that I always laugh about with my content, because I also talk every day on the internet, is can you see the same shit? And they're trying to like razz me. I'm like, man. What do you want me to talk about shit I don't believe in? Like, yes, there are 45 principles I believe in. Luckily, the world keeps evolving. I believe in attention. I'm going to be there to talk about virtual influencers because shit will change. I didn't know virtual influencers were coming 10 years ago. So the world will change, but I'm not going to change my principles.
So I guess this isn't that much of a gear shift. You kind of said that for me. I want to talk about this label cringe that people have been applying to everyone from Taylor Swift to the friend who you knew in high school is now trying to become an influencer on Instagram. And some people have applied that label to your content as well. Of course. So how do you think about the concept of cringe and how it's become almost weaponized today?
I don't think about it at all. I think about it with compassion. I think if you're someone who weaponizes anything, cringe, luck, I think envy is obvious. And I also think it's silly. I think a lot of it's not even that serious. I think 80% of the people that throw around cringe, it's like banter, like amongst, it's like Sixers knit, it's banter. And the 20% that mean it, I feel bad for. If you're running around the internet, replying cringe in the comments to something, your life isn't awesome. It means you're not in a happy place. Like you're trying to deploy some negativity because you're not feeling good. So 90%, 80%, I'm like in some fucking locker room, like homie, like my boys that I went to Mount Ida College with, they say the worst shit to me in the world, and I get plenty of shit. You know, it's your boy, like. So I think 90 of it is just banter, but the 10% I actually view as, if you need to tell Taylor Swift she's cringe in the comments of her latest Instagram post, I just know where you're at mentally, and like I got love for you, and I hope you get the fuck out of that.
Yeah, I love this concept. There's Cringe Mountain, and there's some people who are on Cringe Mountain, working their way up, and the people who are usually commenting in the comments section or at base camp. They haven't even stepped foot on it, so that's just another way.
Yeah, it's just like I get it. Like, this is America. This is humans. This is what the world does. We love to build up, then we love to tear down, but then we love a Britney's back bitch too. So, like, we'll literally go through full. Like, look at Taylor. We like literally actually built the world, built her up. Then she went through that period where it like literally tore all the way down, only to build her up to levels that we've rarely seen. And you know, and then guess what? There'll be times like, and so like this goes back to detachment. Like, I think one of the cool things that I'm hoping more people realize, like for me, I'm very grateful that I'm a good businessman, but like I got fortunate. Like when I was like my whole life, when I was growing up, like grades were the most important thing, and like I was bad at that, and so I was told by the world that I was a loser. So I got used to it. Like somebody in the comments being like, "Fuck you, Gary Vee," is at 40 fucking 8 years old is very different than being 12 and having a teacher saying you're a loser, you're dumb, because in the 80s they weren't politically correct in Jersey. So like, if I was able to handle that shit, you know, and I think about that a lot.
Let's talk quickly about sports. You own a Major League Pickleball team. You're part owner of a Big Three basketball team, which is that league founded by Ice Cube, and you're an investor in the revival of a slam ball league. What are you seeing in these upstart leagues in sports? Where's the opportunity in sports? Where do you see as the best investment right now?
Great question. The 1982 NBA Finals game, a 1982 NBA Finals game between the Lakers and Sixers in America was not aired in real time. It was on tape delay. The first Super Bowl did not sell out all of its tickets. Me and my boys watched the first UFC pay-per-view because we never thought there'd be another one because it was human cockfighting.
What?
The history of sports tells you that new ones pop up and shit changes. When the radio was the primary device of consumption, baseball, boxing, and horse racing were the three most popular sports because they're very good sports to listen to in announcer form. Basketball, football,
Better be
coming
good
up,
talking out of
but
pocket.
they were different. When we went to television, those things exploded, especially football. It is a fucking TV product.
Yeah, man, this is like pretty much the final product. You just want to run this through the washing machine, and then everything looks good.
That's what I've been arguing in marketing for the last 10 years. I think VR is coming. I don't think
This is what you're dealing with.
Even today, there's a headline: Apple's downgrading the right back to me being wide. I pay attention, but I don't view that as like CVR is dead. I view that as cell phones weren't